Well, if you were hanging with me last week, I made a video on just how useless and out of date Swiss Army knives really are. Of course not in all reality. These have been around for 125 years and they still crank out 45,000 a day and create 10 million a year and sell in over 120 countries. It is wild what Swiss Army knives continue to do. But in last week's video, I did discuss 3 reasons why, even though I own many of these Swiss Army knives in different designs, I just don't normally carry them, and why something like the ROCKTOL really connects with me. And if you're interested in that, I'll have a link in the description below over to that video where I kind of talk through those 3 reasons. So if you're like me, or you almost feel like guilt tripped in the outdoor EDC community, like you need to really like, you know, Swiss Army knives, and if you don't, there's something wrong with you, go watch that video. But as I was unpacking this, a lot of you guys were talking and asking about the Gerber ARMBER. And I did a video on this Swiss Army knife alternative when it first was released, and it was definitely a mixed bag for me, and there were definitely some issues. Well, since then they've come out with some new versions and potentially addressed some of those original criticisms that I had. And so let's find out together how this new rendition stacks up to the previously reviewed ROCKTOL, and if these Swiss Army knife alternatives are worth pursuing in your everyday carry systems, or if it still makes sense to go with tried and true. Thanks for joining me today, guys. If you are a regular viewer, appreciate you so much. If you're new to the channel, I'm Aaron. This is Gideonstactical. Let's go ahead and dive on in. Now, one of my main criticisms with the ARMBER when it was originally released was that there was no pocket clip, so you're basically stuck in a very similar scenario that you have with most Swiss Army knives, where you just have to throw it in your pocket, hope it stays there. And even the ARMBER had some issues where it was kind of tricky to even get it onto your key ring. So that was almost even worse than most Swiss Army knives. Well, they have addressed that with many of the new versions, offering a pocket clip that is really well executed. It has a nice big bell down there, so it'll go over thicker like work pants or duty pants. Has 2 nice torque screws right there to keep it from shifting left and right. I mean, it is mounted, it is solid, there are no issues with the pocket clip. So if you look for a pocket clip in these Swiss Army knife alternatives, the new ARMBER versions are definitely going to execute that well. Now, in the previous ROCKTOL video, I addressed how I love 3D bit, and this having an adjustable, swappable bit driver really operates well, and I prefer that to the kind of corkscrew design that you get on a lot of Swiss Army knives. Well, how does that compare to the ARMBER? The ARMBER has, I believe, a leg up over even the ROCKTOL in this, because it has that 3D bit that is either for Phillips or you swap for flathead. You're also going to get a driver arm that's twice as long, so you're going to be able to get into tighter spaces and get that torque down in a better way than you would on the ROCKTOL. The ROCKTOL, you're going to have to really back off. It gets thicker very quickly. This stays pretty narrow the entire time. And finally, this uses a magnet to keep it into place, all your bits. So if you use any of your 1/4-inch bits from a toolkit, that's going to stay and seat really nicely, whereas this doesn't have a magnet in there. You can modify and do drop on in, do different stuff with the ROCKTOL, but you got to rely on this ball pin right there to seat it into place, and if you use a different type of bit, they may fall out. So this, I believe, is the better driver on the ARMBER. It is a slip joint, just like on the ROCKTOL and just like on a Swiss Army knife. So I would have really liked to see this be a locking mechanism, would have taken it to 11, but of all 3, if you're gonna ask me, this is the best bit driver. Now, just like you guys, I'm going through my gear and equipment in preparation for all of my summer adventures, and I can tell you there's one piece of equipment that has stayed with me and is a staple when it comes to communication with my kids as well as my friends and family when we're out there on those adventures, and it's my Rocky Talkies. And that's why I'm stoked that they're today's sponsor, because not only do they have the award-winning classic 2-watt mountain radio, but also the new GMRS 5-watt radios. And over the last few months of use, I have enjoyed the extended range that the 5 watts give you. Just testing different obstructions between us. You're about 2.5 miles away with the mountain between us.
Okay, well, I just heard you loud and clear.
And there's a ton of added value having access to the NOAA weather channels when you are in the backcountry where weather can change on a dime.
Tuesday night and Wednesday, mostly clear.
But the original mountain radio is no slouch, having just crossed 3 years of use with my family, still running on those original ion batteries, keeping a great charge, and also being able to communicate with my brother on multiple backpacking trips through rugged terrain. So you guys are gonna go head on over that ridge line?
Yeah, I can hear everything you're saying perfectly fine.
So guys, I'll have links in the description box below this video over to the Rocky Talkie website so that you can explore all the different features and capabilities of each radio to help you better determine which one would be suited for your needs and your situation. And as an added bonus, I will include my exclusive 10% off promo code, which when you add to cart, immediately knocks off 10% from your purchase. So I encourage you to score a pair so that you can stay in contact on all of your adventures. Now, another key feature that I look for in my Swiss Army knife alternatives is the ability to deploy the blade one-handed and for it to have a locking mechanism, because with a few exceptions, most Swiss Army knives are going to require you to use 2 hands with a nail nick, and they are slip jointed. Well, the ROCKTOL has excellent speed and a liner lock in the deployment. The Gerber armbar, you can flick open. It's a little bit more tension, so it's not quite as fast, and it does have a very similar liner lock right there so you can collapse and close. Now, with that said, it is hidden, that liner lock, a little bit more under the body of the tool than on the ROCKTOL. So what tends to happen sometimes is I really have to like think about what I'm doing, get my thumb right up against the pivot, really press hard, and then close, and then good detent, everything right there. It's fully functional. It's just not quite as intuitive as the ROCKTOL. The ROCKTOL is faster to deploy and easier to disengage that lock. Now, when we look at the blade itself, it's got that nice sheep's foot design. It works great, very straight, flat cutting edge. Going to be about 2.5 inches overall cutting length. And Gerber does not state what type of steel they use, which is disappointing. We know that the ROCKTOL uses 7CR17 and Rockwell 58, and we know Swiss Army uses VICTORINOX 1.4110 Rockwell 56 on theirs. I can tell you that when we look at edge retention on all three, the Gerber has the least edge retention. It's going to dull out on you the fastest. And if you're asking me which one has the best edge retention, and from my experience and just the one I like using the most, it's actually the ROCKTOL, just because of the grind, because that does matter, and because it's a 58 Rockwell, it seems to hold its edge just a bit longer than the 56 Rockwell on a very similar type in the same family of steel. So I don't know what steel Gerber's using. Is some sort of Chinese-made alphabet soup, since it's made in China, stuff. But it's just disappointing. It would have been great to have something that was like 8CR Rockwell 58 or 56 to 58 would have been perfect. All of them are really cheap. All of them are going to dull really fast. You can resharpen them really fast, but of all three, the Gerber loses and is in third place in comparison. So that's where we sit on the blade itself. Now let's talk about value in just a moment, which is a big factor. But before I do that, on the trade version, and there are many versions with different tool sets, this is the trade version that I got. I'll just hit a few of the other tools. We get a nice little awl there, very sharp, could easily punch through stuff and throw sparks off of it if you wanted to. All the rest of the tools are slip jointed, and you're gonna get a 2-inch wood saw. That's the model I wanted to go with, and I was actually impressed with how this wood saw operated. You're not going to delimb a bunch of stuff, but you could easily make notches in the woods if you wanted to do that and work with that type of stuff, or like shave off a piece of wood if you're building something very intricate around the campfire or just practicing your bushcraft, or if you're in the trades and you work in a wood shop and you need this for some sort of finishing move. Finish him, fatality, woodcraft finished. That type of thing. It would be able to do that without much difficulty, even though it is, again, on a slip joint. Then finally, back here, you get this little nail tapper. Now, you're not going to be framing in a house with it, but you can tap in a little nail, if you needed to. Your wife asked you to hang a, what's it called? A picture, you don't want to run out to the tool chest. You can just tap that in, something like that, and then you kick it out like that, and you got a little bottle cap opener so you can refresh yourself with your favorite beverage at the end of a hard day. So this is an 8-in-1 tool. The ROCKTOL is a 12-in-1 tool. Now, as we come into value, I paid $36 for this version of the ARMBER. Now, you can find the original versions now on sale in some places for like under 20 bucks, and that's a pretty good value. At $36, we're starting to look at similar pricing to a lot of introductory Swiss Army knives. VICTORINOX, like the Tinker and a few other models, are going to come right around that $35 to $40 price point. Whereas when we look at the ROCKTOL, which is a 12-in-1, so it will have more tools overall, you can score these currently for about 20 bucks, $19 is what I paid for this version. There's even a variant that you can get a leather sheath for like $21, and it's blacked out. So if we're looking at Chinese-made stuff with more tools, you know, the ROCKTOL has an epic set of scissors. This particular variant does not. You can get other ones that do, and I can tell you the ROCKTOL scissors work better than the ARMBER scissors I've used in the past. So that's something to note. You know, that if you were to ask me between them, there's not a lot outside of the driver that sets this ARMBER apart from the ROCKTOL, and it's going to cost you significantly more. Now, I'll have links in the description box below to all the different variants that we're talking about today, different options. They even now make pocket clips for the original ARMBER version that screws into these little eyelets right there, so that's kind of cool. I'll have links for that, so that if you're interested in including the ROCKTOL and some of my favorite Swiss Army knives that I do own, even though again I just don't really use them that much. And ultimately it's going to come down to you guys. What do you think, particularly if you own the ARMBER, if you own one of the ROCKTOLs? I know many of you guys ordered the ROCKTOL since my video. Leave a comment below on how you think it performs, particularly for that price point. And are you a person that prefers Swiss Army knife alternatives, or are you the type of person that prefers the tried and true classic? Leave comments below. I appreciate you guys hanging with me today. I hope it's been fun, entertaining, and ultimately broken down the ARMBER in comparison to the ROCKTOL that we previously reviewed and the Swiss Army knives, and helped you determine for yourself if it's worth pursuing or if it's better to go in a different direction. Check out the other video popping up, subscribe if you haven't yet, and until next time, always remember to stay equipped, stay prepared, and I'll see you out there.